Hello and welcome to Tag1 Team Talks, the podcast and vlog of Tag1 Consulting. In January 2025, Drupal 7 is going to be designated end of life, and it's going to cease to be supported by the community in the way that it has been over the last 14 years. But that doesn't mean that the platform is dead and that you have to migrate to another platform or upgrade to another version of Drupal if you don't want to. Today, we're going to be talking about how you can continue to run Drupal 7 after end of life with Tag1 Drupal 7 extended support. With Tag1 D7ES, the Tag1 team, which has led the creation and evolution of Drupal 7, the team that's helped secure and manage the releases of Drupal 7 for 14 years, we're going to continue to do what we did for free as community volunteers on a paid basis moving forward to provide you with all of the security and compatibility updates that you need to securely run and build on your Drupal 7 platform. My name is Michael Meyers. I'm the Managing Director at Tag1 Consulting, and I'm joined today by Jeremy Andrews, the founder and CEO of Tag1. Welcome, Jeremy.
Hello, thank you.
So at a high level, today we're going to talk about Tag1 Drupal 7 extended support in great detail, what it is, how it works, how it's going to help you run Drupal 7 as long as you need. And then we'll loop back and we'll talk a little bit more about Drupal 7 end of life, what it is and what your options are in general so you guys can make an informed decision. So first up, Jeremy, what is Tag1 D7ES?
Yeah, prior to end of life of Drupal 7, the community has provided security updates for Drupal 7, as well as just making sure that it supports modern versions of the LAMP stack. And so D7ES from Tag1 continues this so that if there are security issues affecting any of the modules that our customers are using, we will fix those issues and release them. And as versions of PHP go end of life themselves, we'll make sure that Drupal itself can continue to work with more modern versions of PHP and other dependencies.
So pretty much we're going to provide you with all you need to continue running Drupal 7 securely and even enable you to continue to build out your Drupal 7 applications if you want after end of life. I touched on this a little bit in the opening. We've been a big part of the development of Drupal 7. Why should people trust Tag1? Why are we uniquely positioned to do extended support for Drupal 7?
Yeah, Tag1 has been intimately involved with Drupal since version 3 back in 2001 when Drupal was first created. I mean, we've been involved from the beginning. More recently, we provided long-term support for Drupal 6 for 6+ years, doing the same sort of thing for Drupal 6. And with Drupal 7, we've not only, I mean, with all these releases, including Drupal 6 and earlier, but also Drupal 7 and beyond, we've been writing the code, maintaining the code. Fundamentally, people have been trusting Tag1 as long as they've been using Drupal, because Tag1 has been so intimately involved in Drupal development and support and security and all the things people are looking for.
To put that into context, before I joined Tag1 as a team member, Tag1 helped me build multiple businesses, really successful. One of them was examiner.com, which at the time, it became the largest site ever on Drupal, the top 50 website. Working with Tag1, we built out over a third of Drupal 7. I think Acquia, through their development of Gardens at the time, built out around a third of the platform. We built out at least a third, and the community in general filled out the rest. We're talking everything: automated quality assurance and testing, migration tool set, like all of the tooling for Drupal 7, as well as all of the features and functionality. So Tag1 really played an amazing role long before the release of Drupal 7 up to today in helping to build and maintain this platform. So
a good example of that, sorry, Michael, is the automated testing framework, which we help build and maintain. It'll be shut down for Drupal 7 when Drupal 7 goes end of life. And so we've already spun up our own version to replace it. And after Drupal 7 is end of life, we will continue to do full regression testing on any and all patches that we release through our program. Just an example of something that we've been so involved for so long. We're the logical people to continue this.
We have to do a team talk on the QA system. It's one of my favorite things about Drupal, and it does over 10 concurrent years of testing in a single calendar year. It spins up variations and permutations of Drupal on different operating systems with different databases. And so it really ensures, broad compatibility. It's, when people run Drupal, they expect it to work on their system, right? They install it, it should work. And that's what this automated quality assurance and testing system really helps ensure. And so our ability to clone that and continue to run that on behalf of the community is going to make a huge difference versus just receiving patches and not knowing if they're going to work in your specific permutation or instance of the platform. So it's a critical advantage. So what is D7ES? What does Tag1 D7ES include? And can you give us a sense what the price points are? I know we're trying to hit really moderate price points to make this available to as many people in the community as possible. What are the plans that are available?
Yeah, we have two main plans. We have what we call the self-service plan. And what that literally is we monitor the modules and themes that you have installed, core, contrib, and otherwise. And as we see issues, as we find security issues, either by backporting them from, the latest Drupal 11 release or through our proactive reviews, we provide those patches and notify you this patch affects your website. And you don't get notified by things that don't affect you. So it's not a lot of noise. It's not a lot of advertising. It's just the things that matter to you. Our other plan is a premium support plan. And that one is the same patches. Again, everything is supported. The core you have installed, the contrib modules and the contrib themes you have installed. But in addition, we provide a few hours a month to help you to install those patches and, to get you set up to properly test and make sure everything's working as you expect.
Your marketing team is genius. Self-service, premium support plan. You should give them a raise. What about price points? What can we expect these to cost?
Yep. The self-service plan is $149.99 a month per site. The premium support plan is $1,499.99 a month. So it is more expensive if you want our help. And there is a third option that I didn't really talk about, but if somebody has, a lot of websites and they want our support for those, we will do custom premium support plan pricing for them.
The self-service plan at $149, does that have a volume discount as well?
No. What we can provide though is we can do discounts for nonprofits and things like that, education sites, and we will offer that, and we'll put something formal on the website soon. Our interest in it is keeping Drupal 7 sites secure, and we want to make sure that people can afford it. At the same time, the costs can't go too low because we're paying people to to put time every single week into helping to upgrade the versions of PHP supported and other dependencies, as well as backporting patches.
Yeah, and to be responsive, right? We need to make sure that there's people allocated to this on a full-time basis, so that when an issue or need arises, they're dedicated and there to address it. It also takes a tremendous amount of expertise, right? Drupal security, people that have been working on the Drupal security team for a really long time, release managers. A lot of the folks that are involved in this process are, very expensive, very high demand type resources. And so, we very much want to make this a community effort, but it is challenging. And I would say, you don't have to pay us the $149.99 a month to benefit necessarily, but the more people who pay us and the more that you can pay us, the longer it's going to enable us to create these patches for you, right? So at some point, I think we ran Drupal 6, you said, Jeremy, for a little over 6 years. We ran it beyond the point where we were losing money on it, again, as a community service. But at some point, the commercial market evaporates to the point where it's just not viable for us to deliver this service. So if you are going to benefit from the patches, it would be great if at the very least you could find a small way to contribute on that level. Now, you install this module on your site. It monitors what you have and it alerts you when an update is needed. Can I buy a license and then run this on all of my sites?
Sort of. So with your license, you can install You can install the module and one site can phone home, which is to say that every 24 hours, we take a snapshot of the modules you have enabled, the versions, just to make sure we have the latest information about your site. You're not able to install the module on another site with the same or different modules. However, if you have like the same modules on many, many different sites, you can share the patches, put it in one place, apply them everywhere, and that's fine. What we consider a site is basically what everyone would consider a site, which is to say, if your website is www.example.com, even though you have a dev site and a QA site, those instances of it are not, they don't require separate licenses. But if you had another website, whether it was a multi-site or something else, that had a different database and a different URL, that is actually a different Drupal installation, then that's like a different site that you would need to install a module on.
So if I had 10 sites and they're all the same, I can install and run it on one and share the patches across all of them. But to the degree that my site's different, you only get notifications for the modules that are running on the system where you have the license for. So there is a downside in not running the module on a system that are slightly different. But you're definitely welcome to share them across sites if they're the same, and you'll benefit from doing so.
Yeah, the same way that Drupal is GPL 2+, the patches will also be. So we will be releasing them as open source and you can share them. But to state again, it's important that people are paying for these patches so they continue to exist.
Now, if I come along and I buy a premium support plan, that comes with a couple hours a month, 3 hours a month for the Tag1 team to help my team with questions, to get up and running with the patches. Tag1 can install them for me. But there are some requirements that my organization needs to have in place, right? Some basics, most sites already have these. Can you give us a quick rundown? If an organization wants premium support, what are the base requirements they need to have in place in order for us to provide that support?
Hopefully none of these are surprises to anybody, because they are important. First and foremost, the website needs to be properly managed with source control. We don't want you manually applying patches on production websites. It needs to use proper source control. There has to be databases, recent databases that you're testing of the database. If something goes wrong, which of course we try to avoid, it's critical that it's possible to back out. So that's important. And you need at least a testing environment. So it can be, dev, QA, whatever you want to call it. But we want to install the patches and test them somewhere prior to it going into production and affecting the live website. Those three are, the most critical requirements for being able to use the service.
And I remember with Drupal 6, a fair number of organizations came to us and especially on the smaller end of the scale, didn't necessarily meet these requirements. Oftentimes the easiest thing to do was to migrate them to a hosting provider, a platform like Pantheon or something that had development staging backups, all these things bundled into a pretty convenient, inexpensive monthly plan. We can certainly help you do it internally, but again, it tends to be easier to just migrate your system. If I remember correctly, almost, we can't give any guarantees because every system is unique and a bit of a black box, but I don't think it was extremely rare that it took more than 10 hours. And so, we offer a $3,000 setup fee, a one-time fee for organizations that don't meet these requirements to help them get up and running so that moving forward they will. And, as you mentioned, like this is kind of really critical fundamental stuff that every organization should have in place to begin with. So, you really shouldn't be operating a website without this, and you'll benefit from doing it as well.
Yeah, I missed one requirement that probably is worth calling out. The patches will be against the latest version of Drupal core, and it'll be against the latest version of, contrib released modules and themes. So it will be necessary for your website not only to have source control and backups and, multiple environments, but you also need to be upgraded to the latest. And that's if you have a service like D7ES, you really want to be anyways, because most of like the latest releases are fixing security issues or getting you up to date with the latest dependencies. But you can't simply apply these to an old version and expect them to work. We're not going to be backporting to every single release of Drupal. You have to be on the latest version.
So when an update, a compatibility update, a security release comes out, I'm running the module, I get notified. What happens? Like, how does that work?
Depends on which plan you have. If you're the self-serve, you receive an email and says, here's the patch, and then you run with it. And if you have the technical expertise or the team, you can apply the patch, do all the things that we would do for you. If you're paying for the premium team, the premium support package, then we'll proactively reach out and coordinate applying that patch, testing it with you, making sure it works, and allowing you to then deploy it. But in all cases, it's pretty straightforward. It can be as simple as either applying a patch or even just extracting a tarball or a zip archive over the top of the existing code base, commit it, and push it to production.
When the Tag1 team discovers a vulnerability or a requirement for an update, what is the process and timing for that? How, when are these released? Is Tag1 offering some sort of service level agreement, an SLA?
Yeah, it's a difficult one to answer because there's different ways that patches are going to become available. But when we did Drupal 6 LTS, which was the Drupal 6 version of extended support, whenever there were security issues that were released for Drupal 8, Drupal 9, Drupal 10 affecting Drupal 6, we would release them typically within 5 minutes of them being announced publicly. Because there's coordination behind the scenes. We'll never release them before they're available, though, for all versions and the existing live version of Drupal. In other cases, there's going to be proactive work done, reviewing the code bases and in particular upgrading them to make sure they work with a still supported version of PHP. And in doing that, we may find security vulnerabilities and therefore release patches. We would never release a patch without first coordinating with Drupal's security team to see, does this affect Drupal 11 or 10 or 9 or any other of the versions of Drupal that are active out there, and coordinate and take as long as it takes to make sure we have a solution in place everywhere before we would roll out the patches. But the end goal and the end result is that everybody's able to apply the patches at the same time.
Yeah, it's a really interesting point. Like, it's surprising when we did D6 LTS long-term support that a vulnerability in Drupal 6 might also be a vulnerability in 7, 8, 9. And so yeah, again, the coordination, we couldn't just fix it and release it. It had to be coordinated with the security team and the releases of all the other platforms, or we would expose them to a serious vulnerability, and vice versa. More common was that vulnerability was discovered in a more modern, a newer version of Drupal that happened to also apply to the ES version, in this case 7, and we had to go back and fix it. And so the idea that we would offer an SLA, it sounds great in theory, and our efforts are to get them out there as quick as possible. But there are third parties that are involved in this process that have to be involved in this process that we can only move so fast to say the security team, and they are generally very good. But I think it's great to be really upfront with everybody. We will put processes in place. We will commit to timelines, but ultimately we're going to have to work with and run around the community and the way the security team works in general. So Tag1 Drupal 7 extended support covers all of the contributed modules that my organization is using, all of the core modules my organization is using, and all of the contributed themes that my organization is using. What if I have a funky module? What if I have a module that's like, a sandbox module or something that, that's really esoteric, something uncommon? Does Tag1 D7ES cover those as well?
Yeah, as long as it's an open source release, we're able to review the code base. That said, we want there to be a official release for the module. Like that is the preference, that there has been a release, and in all cases, it has to be the latest release that we're going to create the patch for. So if you're vulnerable and you have an older release, you'll have to first upgrade and then apply the patch. Um, we generally are not supporting like sandbox only modules or devel release. However, when we did Drupal 6 LTS for 6+ years, we found that there were cases where a module was big, like it was important, it was fundamental to a website, and it never had an official release. It only had a sandbox, only had a devel. And so on a case-by-case basis, we did in fact support them, and absolutely, we'll do the same in D7ES. You'd have to, if we found an issue, we would have a conversation about it to make sure it was a good fit for that. And then yes, we could also support that. The only other caveat is, we're not saying all Drupal 7 modules are supported. We're saying all Drupal 7 modules and themes are supported that are actively installed by our paying customers. And those are the ones that, have the module installed, that show up in the list of modules that we will be supporting. We will not be publishing that list, but the patches would come out based on, as necessary.
It's a really important distinction. All of the modules used by the organizations that are working with us will be covered, but not 100% of the contrib. Yeah.
Yeah.
What about commitment? I sign up for the Tag1 D7ES service. Do I need to sign a 1-year, 2-year contract? Is there lock-in? How does this work?
It's month by month. There's no commitment necessary. You pay the month in advance. So if you buy 1 month and you cancel, you can get all the modules that already exist that affect your site, and you can cancel, and that's fine. In many cases, people were hesitant to sign up with the D6 program because they were migrating off. They had 3 months to go, but it works out great. You sign up for 3 months. And then if your migration takes longer, if it takes 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, you just stay signed up as long as you want. In some cases, customers want a commitment from us that we're going to be around longer. So we do offer an annual plan, same price. You don't save any money, but it basically says this is our guarantee to you that yes, you pay us for this year, and we will continue to provide Tag1 D7ES for the full next 12 months.
Awesome. Yeah, I hope people see, we're trying very much to do this in large part as a community service. This is not a big money maker, even at the supported level. This is very much us trying to enable the community to continue to run Drupal 7 as long as they need. And, no commitment, no lock-in, unless you want to lock us into that 1-year contract. Well, Jeremy, I really appreciate you giving us the rundown on Tag1 Drupal 7 extended support. If folks want to sign up, where do they go? How do they do it?
Our website's at d7es.tag1.com. That stands for Drupal 7 extended support. So d7es.tag1.com. And on that website, there's a form to fill out. Once you fill it out, we actually won't start taking money until January after Drupal 7 goes end of life. But the directions are there for the module that you have to install and to get you all set up. It's worth jumping on if you want the enterprise support offering, because it might take some time between now and January to get your site up to date, get backups in place, those kinds of things that are requirements for the program.
Test everything out, definitely. You should not wait until January to provide us with your information and let us know that you want to use this service. Definitely plan ahead. It doesn't take too much effort to get up and running and to test things out, but avoid the rush. Awesome. Well, really appreciate the rundown. We'll put the links in the show notes for the various things that we mentioned, in particular the d7es.tag1.com website. To the folks who are listening, please help us get the word out about Drupal 7 extended support. There's been a lot of confusion in the community, a lot of back and forth. The program was canceled 3 times, and it was said it was never going to happen, and now we're back. And a lot of people don't know that Tag1 D7ES is an option, and it's really important that folks know they can continue to run on the platform, that they don't have to migrate unless they absolutely want to or need to. So please share this talk out, upvote, subscribe, to catch more updates. You can check out our past talks at tag1.com/TTT. That's 3 T's for Tag1 Team Talks. And as always, we'd love your input and feedback. If you have any questions about the topic today or suggestions for things you'd like to see us cover on extended support or other topics in general, you can email us at ttt@tag1, that's TAG, the number 1.com. Jeremy, again, thank you so much for joining us, and everyone who tuned in. Thank you too. Take care.